What's up, guys? It's me, PlayerPlayzZ here, and I'm here with another reaction video. This is the second part to the Paw Patrol Creepypasta I reacted to a while ago. This is by the Shadow Reader, and I just want to give a big shout out to the Shadow Reader because he actually told me about this second part. He actually told me about the second part, and if he had not found the first part about me reacting to it, he may not have told me about the second part, and I would have just gone with this. So yeah, let's just get into this video. Big shout out to Shadow Reader. Shadow Reader, if you're watching this, you're awesome. We can just skip through that.
Drip, drip, drip. The first few drops of rain make contact with my tiny apartment window, only to be met with a large wave of rain pouring down like a steady flowing stream. The sound of thunder echoed through my room, shattering the bone-crushing silence, and the flashing of lightning illuminating my darkened apartment. I sat there on my bed, awake, my eyes bloodshot and my body shaking in fear. 2 weeks. It's been 2 long, agonizing weeks since my experience with that thing at the cave. Honestly, I don't think it would have affected me as badly as it did, but I was proven wrong real quickly. Ever since that day, I haven't been able to function properly. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I could barely even get out of bed each day.
Damn.
However, that's nothing compared to what Chase has been going through for the past couple of weeks. He's had to live with the nightmares and trauma of seeing that fucking thing drag him and the rest of his friends to that cave and devouring them right in front of him. To make matters worse, he would often go into very extreme night terrors. Oftentimes, these night terrors would become very violent, with Chase growling and biting at whatever he was trying to attack. He even bit me a few times.
Damn.
I don't really blame him, to be honest. As of now, Chase is fast asleep next to me in bed, his body twitching every so often, but other than that, he remains still.
Shit.
I took a deep breath and grasped the wooden crucifix that was clenched tightly in my right hand. I haven't been able to sleep for about 3 days now. I've kept having graphic nightmares of what had happened 2 weeks earlier, and they've honestly fucked me up in ways that I wouldn't even know. Even if I could sleep, I certainly wasn't planning on it. I think I knew for an absolute fact that thing was still out there, and it was certainly pissed that I messed with its mealtime.
Nah.
Not only that, it was probably planning on ripping me limb from limb after I threw that crucifix at it, burning the inside of its mouth and throat.
True.
What made me even more paranoid was the fact that I even knew that it knew who I was. It did see my face after all. There's something I need to discuss with you all, as I guess it would be the best time to discuss it. Plus, I think you all deserve a bit of an update at what had transcribed these past couple of weeks. To start off, no, the cops didn't find the monster. I guess that's not really much of a shocker. From what I was told by a few of my fellow officers that day that I'd quit my job, they had investigated the cave that I had been in, and they only managed to find the broken equipment, collars, and uniforms of the pups. However, they didn't find any of the bodies, with the sole exception of a small puddle of blood. I guess that thing really didn't want to stick around. However, what they told me next was something that completely caught me off guard. Apparently, after they had sealed up the crime scene for further investigation, something had happened. When all the officers and detectives went to the cave to investigate further into the homicides, they found the cave to have been blown shut. What I mean by that is the entrance of the cave was completely sealed shut by numerous rocks and debris. Turns out there was an explosion that was caused by some kind of, well, explosive that tore down a chunk of the mountain that was on top of the cave that sealed it shut. Nothing could be done to get back into the cave, no matter what kind of machine or explosive was used. This, of course, was rather suspicious to say the least. Why would anybody try and seal up the cave? Maybe it was trying to keep something in, or maybe trying to keep something out. I honestly wouldn't know. After that, it was just me and Chase. We pretty much had to restart our lives from the very start. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy for either of us. I had to go and find myself a new job in the new town that I was in, which was a problem for me since the town was so freaking tiny. Luckily, I managed to get a part-time job working as a janitor for a mom-and-pop grocery store about a mile from the apartment complex I was staying in. As for Chase, he really didn't go out that much anymore, unless he acted as a seeing eye dog for me when I wasn't working at the store. The reason I did this was to try and disguise myself as best as I could, just in case that thing was watching me. Also, it was to make sure that Chase was by my side at all times. This is how we lived for the next 2 weeks of our lives. Now I'm currently in bed with Chase right now. I wait hour after hour until the sun finally arose. It was then that I had finally let my broken and disgusting body fall right to sleep. After a few hours of rest, I groggily got up from my bed and got myself dressed for work. Before I walked out of the door, I had gotten a phone call from my former boss, Officer Marcus. "Hello," I groggily said. "Officer Marcus, you need to come back to Adventure Bay now," my chief said in a stern manner. "You can forget it, Chief. I'm not going to risk my life for that damn city ever. That's not what I'm calling you for, Michael." I immediately felt silent at those words. If he wasn't calling me for a new case, then what the hell was he calling me for? "What?" I said plainly. "Look, we need you at the Adventure Bay Cemetery ASAP. And bring Chase along with you as well." Click. Before I knew it, Officer Marcus had already hung up the phone before I could ask him any more questions. I was rather hesitant, to say the least, to go back to Adventure Bay, that is. But something in the back of my mind kept on pushing me to go. After a few minutes of the persistent nagging of my conscience, I finally threw my hands up in the air in defeat and said, "Fuck it." I grabbed my police jacket, sunglasses, gun, keys, and crucifix, just in case, and made my way over towards my room. I opened up the door and immediately found Chase still sleeping on my bed. I knew that for an absolute fact I was going to have a hard time getting Chase to come with me, but I wasn't planning on leaving him here alone. "Hey Chase, wake up buddy," I said, slowly shaking him awake. Chase let out a huge yawn before finally opening up his eyes. "Hey Mike, what's up?" Chase said tiredly. Well, there's something that we need to go do today." "What is it?" Chase asked me. I braced myself for what I was about to say. "We need to go to Adventure Bay." Chase's eyes immediately shot open, and his ears drooped down in fear. He started shaking violently. "No," Chase said weakly. "Look, Chase, I know you don't want to go, but we have." "I said no," Chase screamed. "Do you honestly think for a single second that I'd go back to that town? Back to that thing?" True. I was taken aback by Chase's loud outburst. I mean, I expected him to react badly, but not this bad. I knew I had to try and convince him to come along with me. "Look, Chase, I don't want to go back there either, but we have to do this." "No means no, Mike," Chase rebutted. What about the townspeople? What about the mayor?" I said in a desperate attempt to try and convince him any way I possibly could. "Screw them," Chase said coldly. My mouth dropped at the use of profanity from Chase. I mean, Sure, it wasn't a bad word per se,
Jesus,
but
Chase.
certainly wasn't something I'd expect to hear from
My
a Paw Patrol member.
Exactly.
I've worked all my life to take care of this town, Chase began. And this is how I'm repaid? By all my friends getting murdered by that monster? It's bad enough that I lost Rocky, Zuma, and Marshall. Chase began to tear up. But I also lost Ryder, Rubble, and Sky, too. So why should I care what happens to that hick town? I took a deep breath. It honestly made sense to me. I knelt down to Chase and started petting him. Listen, Chase, I understand that you don't want to do this. I honestly really do. But we have to do this. We really do. I promise you, though, you'll be safe with me during the entire time we're there. I promise. Chase walked away from me and jumped off the bed. He sat down and stared at the window and contemplating. After a few minutes of deafening silence, Chase turned to me and said in a monotone voice, "Fine, I'll go. But on one exception." "What is it?" I asked. "We go back to the Paw Patrol lookout. There are some things I need to get from there." I nodded my head in agreement. After that, the both of us walked out of the apartment building and made our way towards the car. After about 2 hours worth of driving, both Chase and I made it to the adventure-based cemetery. I honestly thought that since we were both late, there wouldn't have been that many police officers on the case. However, my assumption was proven wrong real fast, as it seemed that every officer on the ABPD seemed to have been dispatched to that specific area. After finding a place to park our vehicle, both Chase and I made our way towards the entrance. Once there, I was immediately met with my former chief. "Ah, yes, Officer Michael and Officer Chase. It's glad to see you both again after all this time." Officer Marcus shook my hand and patted Chase's head. "You're welcome, I guess," I said, a bit weirded out. "Well, I'm not going to keep you two here for long. Chase, I need to speak with Officer Michael in private, please." "What? Can't I listen too?" Chase pouted.
Yeah.
"It's
let him listen.
Rather hard to say, Chase. But don't worry. Officer Mary here is going to bring you to the other officers for some donuts. Sounds good?" Chase looked at me as if to ask, "What should I say?" "Don't worry, Chase. Me and Officer Marcus won't be long. You go ahead and get some donuts. Oh, and eat a couple for me," I said, winking at him. Chase smiled at me and then walked with Officer Mary to a cop car not too far away from the entrance of the cemetery. After Chase was gone, I turned to my boss and said, "What the hell did you bring me here for?" "Look, Officer Michael, there's been a disturbance recently here in the graveyard, and we have some suspicions about what's been going on." "How is that?" I asked him. "Just follow me," the chief replied. We both slowly began making our way towards the hill of the cemetery, and once we had gotten to the top of it, my jaw dropped at what lay before me.
What?
What the fuck? Police tape covered the main area where all the graves of the Paw Patrol had been buried. Was now desecrated. All three plots that had contained the remains of Rocky, Zuma, and Marshall had been dug up by something, although from the looks of it, it certainly wasn't a shovel. Not only were the graves eviscerated, but the coffins were also missing as well. I looked at my boss in shock. "Yup," he began. "The priest that runs a church and cemetery here in town found these graves like this while he was trying to perform a yearly blessing, as they called it. After seeing all that, he called us up, and we also decided to give you a call." "What was the purpose of calling me? What in the world would I even know about this?" I answered back. "Well, to be honest, we didn't expect you to know anything about this at all. However, we did find this near one of the graves." The chief then pulled out a pink collar that had been torn in at least some areas, but it still seemed intact. I recognized the collar anywhere. It was Sky's collar.
Of course.
During our investigation of the cave, before it was mysteriously sealed shut, we managed to find and extract the data from this collar. Thankfully, this collar somehow managed to get in the graveyard, and once we got it, we fixed it up, and it actually worked. However, the other collars weren't so lucky. Anyway, as we extracted the data from the collar, we found recording files. We immediately extracted the files from the collar and placed them into this little MP3 player here. The officer then pulled out a small, cheap-looking MP3 player from his front pocket and handed it to me. I put on some headphones and clicked play on the first file. I was immediately hit with the sound of screaming and crying from Sky and the other Paw Patrol members. Then I heard the sound of flesh cutting and bones snapping.
Fucking God.
However, the screams continued to grow louder and louder with each passing minute. I honestly didn't want to listen to it anymore, so I just threw the headphones off in disgust. Sorry I had to listen to that, Mike, but we found out something that I think might actually derail this case. What? What is it? Do you remember when you told us that there was a pair of footsteps on the Paw Patrol base? Yeah, I replied back. Well, turns out there's actually about 10 more pairs of footprints scattered all around the base. We have reason to conclude that this murder was perpetrated by at least 10 more people than what you led us on to believe. My eyes widened to the size of saucers. There were more of them?
Oh my God.
This is the reason why we need you back on the case, Mike, Officer Marcus said, placing a hand on my shoulder. You've seen more things than we have, thus, we might actually be able to find this and solve this case if you just help us out. Also, Chase doesn't remember very much about what happened this past couple weeks. All he remembers is running for his life, being dragged in the cave by that beast, and seeing his friends being eaten alive. Damn, Officer Marcus muttered under his breath. Alright, I'm going to need you and Chase to be night watch this evening. Are you fucking serious right now? I said. We just gone through the worst horror lives and you're asking us to deal with that all over again? Forget it. Officer Marcus's face immediately fell into a frown. You're going to help us, he said flatly. And what if I choose not to? I rebutted. Then I have no other choice than to arrest you. I looked at him intently. Arrest me for what? Obstruction of justice, he said to me sternly. I stood there for what seemed like hours, and then Officer Marcus spoke once more. Look, I don't want to have to do that to you, Mike, but we have 4 dead puppies, 1 dead child, no suspects, and no leads. We really need your help to at least find a possible suspect. However, I will cut you a deal. Do this one thing for us, and we'll never ask you to help with another case again. And, not only that, as a bonus, you and Chase will also receive cash each month as, you could say, in a retirement. I let out a sigh and said, What time? 6 p.m. on the dot. Radio me once you get there, and I'll give you instructions of what you two need to do. I let out one more sigh and then walked back to my car. This certainly wasn't something that I had expected to happen today, but sure enough, it was happening. After a few minutes being lost in thought, I heard the sound of Chase's bark. I looked over to see Chase with a little donut hanging out of his mouth. Thanks again for the donuts, officer, he said before jumping up to me. Hey, Mike, I brought you a donut.
No.
Thanks, Chase, but I'm not that hungry right now. You go on ahead and eat it. Okay. Chase immediately swallowed the donut in his mouth that he had, and then he went into the car. I followed suit, and within seconds I was driving away and towards the Paw Patrol base. Once there, Chase got out of the car and made his way towards the pup house. He rummaged around his pup house for a few minutes before pulling out his pup pack, his uniform, and a few other items. He did the same thing for Marshall's house as well. I was honestly surprised. Where the heck did he get those pup packs from? I could have sworn that all the clothes and packs that they had been destroyed back at the cave. Once it seemed that he had everything, he put on his pup pack and ordered it to carry the remaining items back to the car. After getting everything packed up, he got back into the front passenger seat. Chase? Where did you get those pup packs from? I thought they got destroyed, I asked him. Every pup always has a backup pup pack in uniform, Chase said with a sly grin. Well, if that's the case, why did you take Marshall's? We're only gonna need that one case for the night watch tonight, Chase replied. Wait a minute, how did you... Officer Mary told me everything, he said flatly. Well, are you okay with that? I asked once more. That thing killed my friends and ruined my life. It's only fair that I find the monsters that did this and put a stop to it. I didn't say anything more after that. I just drove off to a small motel across town. 6 p.m.
Alright.
The watch on my arm flashed. It was time for the night watch to begin. I made sure that we were both fed and had taken a nap before the stakeout started. Upon loading up everything that we needed into the car, we took off from the motel and made our way toward the heart of Adventure Bay, the Paw Patrol base. Let me just say right here and right now that our night watch was very unsuccessful and very boring. Almost 2.5 hours had passed since we began, and we found nothing out of the ordinary. We looked at the mayor's office, nothing. Then we checked downtown, still nothing. Then we checked the forest, and still nothing. This was starting to feel like more of a wild goose chase than anything, until I spotted something in the distance. I didn't know what it was at the time, so when I saw it, I drove closer to where the spot was. It had a very faint orange glow coming from the path to the cave. I looked over at Chase and told them that I'd be back soon, as I had to go and investigate the glow.
No.
I then told him to stay put in the car, and that if I wasn't back in an hour, to radio the police. He agreed, and I immediately made towards the glowing light. Upon entry to the path, I quickly hid myself in a long thicket of bushes and trees. Once I had made sure that I was properly undetected, I made my way towards the source of the light. About 10 minutes into the walk, I noticed a large bonfire in the distance. I carefully crept closer towards the fire, and once I knew for a fact that nobody was there, I got out of my little hiding spot and immediately walked towards the fire. As I drew closer towards the dancing flames, I noticed that I was in the exact same spot that the cave was at. And then I saw it. The large makeshift stone altar located north of the bonfire. I walked up to it and noticed a copious amount of blood stained upon it, with what looked like knives and other ritualistic items on there. What is this? I asked myself. Almost as soon as I had made that, I heard the sound of multiple people walking down the path that I had just traversed on. I immediately hid myself back in the same thicket of bushes and trees to try and hide myself from the oncoming crowd of people coming my way. As I hid for dear life, I opened up a small opening in the bushes just to see what was going on. After less than a minute of footsteps, I finally saw who was coming down the trail. There were a bunch of people, all dressed in red robes with white cord tied around their waist. At first, the first of the two of the robed people processed down in a ritualistic manner. Four of the robed-in people carried large wax candles in their hands. The other four walked in twos and were holding two large black caskets of some sort. Another two were holding ropes that connected to a large cage that held the tar-covered beast I had seen. And finally, one final robed person walked with a large book raised up in the air in one hand and a goblet in the other. I didn't know what the hell I was even looking at. I mean, what was this? I would have considered running back to the car. However, I failed to notice that one of the robed men behind me had quickly found out where I was hiding at, and once I turned around, he knocked me out cold with a metal bat. I woke up about a few hours later, after a strange liquid was splashed into my face. I could tell by the putrid and rancid stench that it certainly wasn't water. As I slowly regained consciousness, I noticed that I was right in front of the altar that I had just seen, and the beast was standing next to it in the cage, snarling and reaching its claws out to try and get me. And surrounding me was at least 11 of the hooded creeps I had seen before. Both my arms and legs were both tied to two seppies, causing me to become immobile. "What the fuck is going on?" I yelled out. "You should already know by now," a voice called out to me. I immediately turned my head to try and locate the source of the voice. And there, walking towards me, was one of the red-robed people. It kept on walking until it was nearly face-to-face at me. I couldn't tell who was actually looking at me since, well, the hood was covering its face. "Who the hell are you?" I screamed. "Such a shame that you don't recognize a familiar face." Instantly, the hooded assailant lifted its hood off of its head, and my eyes widened at who I was looking at.
Who?
It was Mayor Goodway.
What?
What? I said in shock and horror. Mayor Goodway smirked at me and then said, "Surprised, aren't you? Well, you're about to be in for a bigger surprise than that."
Are you serious?
One by one, the other hooded figures slowly began removing their hoods, and I could feel the bile rising in my throat at who I was looking at. Captain Turbot, Katie, Alex, Mr. Porter, Mr. Hudson, Mayor Humdinger, Xander, Farmer Yuma, and Jake. They all stared at me with the same sinister grin that Mayor Goodway was giving me.
What the fuck?
Mayor Goodway immediately snapped her fingers, and both Mayor Humdinger and Jake opened up the coffins and dumped the contents under the makeshift stone altar. Surprisingly enough, the corpses that were in there didn't smell rancid, nor did their bodies look decayed. They looked as fresh as rain. I looked at the sight of all of the dead puppies in front of me, and then that fat bitch, Mayor Goodway. "What the fuck is wrong with you people?" I screamed once more. She looked at me and giggled once more. "They weren't needed anymore."
What?
"What do you mean not needed? They've been helping you ungrateful bastards for years now. How the fuck? Why the fuck would you even do that to them? Why?" As I said before, they weren't needed. In fact, they were never needed. Do you honestly think for a second that any of those situations we all went through was actually important? Of course not. They never were. However, they did manage to prove one thing. And that is, I said through gritted teeth, how much of a great sacrifice they'll make for our God. I didn't say anything. She continued. "You see, it's been a tradition in my family to sacrifice at least 6 worthy humans, or I guess in this case animals, to the gods of the underworld every 50 years.
What the fuck?
How wonderful that day was when the Paw Patrol came to be. Their brave hearts, their love of others, and their purity made them all perfect for the ritual.
What the fuck?
If you said you needed 6 people for your disgusting ritual,
What the?
then why the hell are you even here? You already killed 6 people. Well, she began, there's just one small problem with that. You see, our ritual requires that all 6 sacrifices be of the same species. So Ryder really didn't count as part of the ritual.
Where's Ryder?
However, we did have some fun feeding him to Leon. Who the hell is Leon? I asked. Mayor Goodway immediately pointed at the beast in the cage.
What the?
That is Leon. He is one of the 5 guardians of hell, and is one of the gods of the underworld. He is considered our patron god that protects the town from major and destructive threats. You're a sick bitch, you know that? I snapped at her, trying to get out of my restraints. She only giggled before she called her pet chicken, Chicolita.
Chicolita!
The young chicken was also dressed in a similar robe,
What the fuck?
and in her beak, she held a sharp, wavy dagger. Now, she said as she used a dagger to rip my shirt off my body, where is the dog? Get fucked! I said, spitting in her face. Mayor Goodway didn't look very impressed. She immediately placed a blade on my exposed chest and slashed it. This caused me to scream out in agony, with cherry red blood pouring out of my open wound.
What the?
Again, where is Chase? She said, pointing the dagger at me. Shove that dagger up your fucking ass, bitch! I said, spitting at her once more. She then started to slice into my skin, this time slower. I screamed out in agony once again as I flailed my arms as best as I could to slip away from the pain. Thankfully, one of the branches snapped slightly, rendering my arm with more movement than before. Mayor Goodway huffed before placing the edge of the blade to my neck. I've tried being nice now. I'm not going to ask you again. Where is Chase? Woof, woof, net! A small sound erupted from the bushes in front of me, and then a large net sprang out and captured 4 of the rope. Mayor Goodway immediately looked behind her to see what the hell was going on, and I quickly took this time to act. With all the strength I could muster, I ripped the loose branch from the tree that held my hand in place, and with it, I punched Mayor Goodway straight in the face as hard as I could. She fell to the floor, but before she did, I immediately grabbed the dagger out of her hand and cut myself free. I immediately charged at the hooded freaks and started stabbing them repeatedly until I wound up finding my gun lying next to the altar. As I grabbed my gun, I saw Chase moving slowly into the area with a flamethrower spewing out of his paw pack, burning at least 6 of the cult members to nothing but ashes and bones. Taking my gun, I fired round after round in each of the remaining members' stomachs, including the ones that were in my net. After finally finishing them off, Chase ran up to me and said, "Oh, thank goodness you're all right. I should say the same thing to you, Chase. How did you manage to find me?" "The fire. I just followed that." "What are we gonna do about that monster?" I asked. "Just leave that to me." "Ruff, ruff. Hose on," Chase called out. The hose compartment from Marshall's pup pack immediately came out and started spraying water onto the beast. The beast screamed in agony as its body fizzled and smoked from the water being shot at it. After a good long while, the beast was nothing but a small puddle of ooze. Surprising enough, he had used holy water. Who would have guessed? As I was contemplating how I should thank Chase, I immediately heard a loud yelp blasting through my eardrums. I turned around and saw Mayor Goodway slipping a dagger into Chase's side. I pulled out my gun and shot a bullet between her eyes. Blood and bits of brain matter splattered the tree behind her before she fell to the ground with a thud. I dropped the gun and raced over to Chase. He was bleeding badly. I grabbed him and placed him on the makeshift altar, thinking, no, you're not dying on me, Chase. You're not dying on me. I placed my hand over the wound, trying to stop the bleeding, but only continued to flow from the wound. I knew an ambulance wouldn't arrive on time, and if I didn't do something fast, Chase would surely bleed out. I then ran to the fire pit and pulled out one of the burning logs. I blew out the fire on it and ran back to Chase. I placed my arm in his mouth and pressed the hot embers onto the wound. Chase bit down hard as he screamed in pain. as I cauterized the wound. I didn't even feel the pain shooting up my arm at first, and to be honest, I didn't care. I wasn't going to let Chase die like this. After a few minutes, I removed the burning piece of wood from the wound. The bleeding had thankfully stopped in time. However, I knew I had to get Chase to a vet as soon as I possibly could. I grabbed Chase and ran as far away from that cave as fast as I possibly could. I didn't stop running until I got to my car and placed Chase in the front passenger seat. Then I drove. No, I sped like a maniac all the way to the emergency animal care center, about 100 miles away from the town. To make a long story short, I made it in time. Chase was admitted by the doctors for emergency surgery, which lasted for about 7.5 hours in total. Thankfully, the nurses managed to save him. Hell, they were even nice enough to attend to my wounds as well. After the surgery, Chase and I were allowed to leave. However, Chase had to be on bed rest for about 2.5 weeks, and then brought back to remove the stitches. Needless to say, I'm grateful that Chase is still alive, and I'm glad we managed to actually stop and kill that thing, as well as those other disgusting followers of its. I can now sleep peacefully at night, knowing that everything is all better. However, just today, I read in the newspaper that everything had finally been exposed, and the remaining people that hadn't been killed were arrested on the spot. However, there was one thing in the article that I read that turned my blood to ice and made me drop the coffee I was drinking to the ground, causing it to shatter into pieces.
What?
Apparently, there was no sign of Mayor Goodway.
What the fuck? 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 I don't know what to say. Huh. Alright. All I have to say about, oh my god, that was really good. Oh, thank God Chase didn't die. Oh, thank God Chase didn't die. Oh my god. If Chase died, I would have probably started crying, man. Like, you guys do not want to see me when I'm sad, man. Like, it's not funny. It's not cool. Oh, thank God Chase. Whoo! My heart. Yeah. Really good. Shadow Reader, if you're watching this if any of you guys have made it this far, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and Shadow Reader, if you're watching this, let me know if you have any other type of videos that you want me to react to, because I will happily do them for you. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'm also going to be doing this Super Mario Logan Creepypasta next. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.